Okay, I'm going to do a full run through of how to clean your lovely Estarli bike. I can do it primarily using our brand new pressure washer, which is designed specifically for the job. Before we get started though, just a couple of quick little things. Make sure that your battery is firmly attached to your bike and that if there is a battery compartment, that is securely closed. If your bike is a folder, you want to clean it when it's unfolded. So basically you want your bike to be ready as if you're about to take it out on a ride, but the display is turned off. Okay, in terms of things that you will need a washer like ours. I would steer clear of kind of like your heavy duty pressure washers because typically the pressures are just a bit too high and could damage your bike. So make sure whatever it is you're using is either specifically designed for bike cleaning or a good old garden hose will do the job. In terms of other stuff that you will need a good cleaner. So this is one from our good friends at Zefal. This is an Eco Cert cleaner, so environmentally friendly, and we also know it does the job. You're going to need a brush set like the Estarli ones. In terms of other things, a couple of microfibre cloths. So one that you don't mind getting greasy, and then another one for wiping down the frame. Then a good degreaser, a water dispersant of some description, and then a dry lubricant. Really recommend staying away from wet lubes because they actually tend to attract dirt and they can be just a nightmare to get off. And then finally, a disc brake cleaner. Now, if you have a belt-driven model, if you have one of the X models, then you can ignore the bit about having a degreaser and a chain lube because being belt-driven, there's no mess like that, so you don't need anything like that. But I'll go through a little bit more of the idiosyncrasies of the different models as we go through. So let's get started. Okay, so step one, we just want to spray the bike down. Now, just to be clear, what we're not wanting to do is just absolutely blast it. All we're looking to do is just to get rid of any kind of superficial dirt. So just spraying primarily the frame, underneath the mud guards, etc. What you want to try and avoid as best you can is spraying too much towards the bottom bracket, which is this sort of section here. Obviously you want to clean the drivetrain, but you don't want to be spraying in behind the chain rings here because that will drive out any grease that's in there and then it will start to corrode. Okay, likewise we want to try and stay clear of any electrics, kind of staying away from the computer unit and the motor in the rear hub. So generally speaking, what we're using the washer for is to get rid of the really kind of superficial stuff, and anything that's a little bit more stubborn and ingrained, we'll use cleaners and brushes to get it off with. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so step two, we're going to get some degreaser on the chain and the chain rings and the drivetrain generally. You're probably going to use a few little brushes. So what I like to do when it comes to this is I will spray some degreaser directly onto the drive chain, like so. This one's a foaming one. And you can run the chain backwards just to kind of apply it. What I also like to do is to spray a little bit onto a brush itself. And once you've done that, you can kind of just work it into the brush a little bit and then just get involved. Basically, getting it right into the cassette, running the chain through it like so, just making sure you're getting each of the sprockets, and then also the jockey wheels on the rear derailleur. Okay, they tend to collect gunk quite a lot as well, so make sure you get a brush in there and just try and get some of that accumulated debris and grease off. And then finally, make sure you clean the chain rings as well, which are, on this model at least, a little bit guarded. Now just remember, this entire stage, if you are using one of the X models, one of the belt-driven models, you can ignore this entire stage. However, you do still need to give the belt a little bit of a clean. So just inspect it for little bits of grit, stones, etc. and make sure you give those a brush out. Okay, because over time they will start to degrade the belt. But there you go, that's stage two. So stage three, Now that we've got the degreaser well and truly embedded, and we've hopefully given the drivetrain a nice little scrub, now we're going to spray off the degreaser, and that will bring a lot of the muck and grime off as well. So just once more. So when you're spraying it, just be careful again that you're not spraying into the bottom bracket or into the motor. You kind of want to hit it at a slightly obtuse angle, okay? And we're not looking to kind of drive away dirt as such. We're just trying to wash off some of the cleaner. Okay, so next comes the fun bit. I've now got the foamer attachment on our pressure washer, and I filled it, the little reservoir, with some bike shampoo. Okay, and I'm also going to put some of the bike shampoo on a soft-headed brush. And then use that to get off any kind of more stubborn dirt and grime. So here's for the fun bit. So as you can see, the best aspect of using the foamer is that you get a pretty comprehensive coverage, which would be much harder to achieve and probably a bit more wasteful than if you were just spraying it on by hand. But what I am going to do is just spray a little bit of shampoo onto the brush, and then I'll just basically just give the whole bike a good little scrub, just looking for any kind of areas, obvious areas where there's build up of grime and dirt. You can give the drivetrain a little bit of a scrub as well, even though you've just done the degreaser. Just anywhere where you haven't perhaps hit with degreaser, but giving the whole bike a good scrub. Once we're happy that we've gotten all the dirt and grime off, we're then just going to go ahead and spray all the cleaner off. I've got a water dispersant with PTFE here. This is just going to be used on the drivetrain to drive out any last water. Don't use this on anywhere near the bottom bracket or the headset, etc., because these types of spray can also drive any grease out of and around bearings. Okay, so we're going to start off. We've got the two cloths. One is an old grimy, greasy one, which I'm going to use first on the drivetrain. So just starting off by wiping down the cassette and the jockey wheels and the rear derailleur, etc., just getting off any water. Using a cloth like this is also a good way of getting rid of any kind of grease, etc., that you haven't managed to get off already. But running the chain through this cloth, just making sure you're getting off as much visible water as possible. We are going to use the PTFE spray to get rid of any stuff that you can't really see, but we just want to try and do a decent enough job of that. So then we're going to get the PTFE spray. Now just be really careful how you spray this, and make sure that you cover the disc brakes, because you don't want this stuff getting on the disc brakes. So one of the things that you can do is, if you take a cloth, just run it through the middle through the spokes, so that it's just blocking the disc brakes basically, and you're not going to get any on those. Okay, and then you can just from the top just spray the drivetrain, getting rid of any excess water. Once you've done that, just give the whole thing another wipe, just so you're getting rid of any excess spray. This stuff is only really meant to get rid of water. We're not using it as a lubricant. Okay, good stuff. Right, now once we're happy that the drivetrain is sorted, we're going to wipe down the rest of the bike. So ideally just sort of working from the top, working your way down, and just giving the whole thing a good dry, so it's nice and shiny. So we have cleaned and dried the bike. Next up, we just need to re-lubricate the chain. Now remember, if you have a belt driven model, one of the X versions, then you do not need to lubricate because the belt doesn't need lubrication, okay? But if you have a chain driven model, then yeah, you're gonna need to re-lube your chain. So how do we do that? Well, we wanna make sure that we focus on putting lubricant on the rollers on the chain rather than the side or the underneath or on the cassette, okay? So this needs to go just on the rollers in the middle of the chain. So you're just going to backpedal it and just apply a little bit of lubricant to each roller as it goes through. Then once it's done that, just put that to the side, just give it a little bit of a back pedal. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to lift the back wheel off the floor and then just steadily go through all the gears, just making sure we're getting lubricant onto each sprocket on the cassette at the back, going all the way through. Okay, and then once we've done that, last thing to do on this step is just to wipe off any excess lubricant. Okay, so once more, we're just back pedaling a little bit and just wiping the chain as it goes through, just to get off any excess. And then you have it, your chain is now lubricated. Right then, the final stage. We just need to make sure that we clean the brakes now. So you're going to need a disc brake cleaner, and it's very simple at this stage. All we want to do is just get some cleaner onto the brake rotors, into the pad housing, and yeah, we do this last because just in case any kind of sprays or any lubricant has kind of gone awry and accidentally gotten onto the brake rotors or the pads. So very simple, as I say, just spraying it all over the brake rotor and then into the pad housing as well. Getting it on both sides of the rotor, and that is you done. So if you have any questions, we're always here to help. There's plenty of tutorials on the tutorials page on our website, but if there's anything that's not on there, please feel free to get in touch.